Check it out. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, noon Eastern. A healthy dose of Jersey Girl wisdom. Live with Rev Jersey Girl. Sponsored by New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello. Greetings, beloveds. Greetings and salutations. Michelle Wadleigh here, Rev Jersey Girl. And you're going to deal with me wiping my nose today because I have a little allergy thing going on. So I'm telling you that right up front. There's not much I could do about it at the moment. But I'm glad to be here with you, especially today, especially over the last 4 weeks. I want to thank each and every one of you that watched live or tuned into the show with last week with the Kathy Duca, friend, author, therapist. It was a great show, and it seems like many of you got a lot out of it because it was just well viewed. So I'm glad you're here. And over the next 4 weeks, what I'm very excited about is I am bringing to you a subject that has mattered to me for a long time. And I'll give you a little story about how it all happened. Oh, a gazillion years ago, maybe about 30 years ago ish. Couldn't have been. Maybe about 28 years ago. I used to attend the Center for Spiritual Living, Morristown, and my minister then and friend and partner now, Reverend Frankie Timmers. She was one of the first guests I had on my show. She discovered this new little book, and this new little book was called The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. And she did a Sunday series on it, and it was a fabulous series. And I was so excited. And what I found out, he was doing a workshop at a local retreat place by us. It used to be called the Wainwright House. I don't know if it still exists, but it was a really precious little retreat spot. So I went up there to see Don Miguel, and I must tell you at the time, his English was interesting. It was way less than his English is now. So you had to really focus and really paid attention. But we went out for the retreat. There was a few of us that went together, and it was fabulous. It was a fabulous weekend. I bought in to who he was as a being and to the teaching of the Four Agreements as a book and as a set of rules for life. And so what happened was I turned around and I wound up talking about it at I was asked to do a talk for a singles group, oddly enough, and an author, or not an author, what was her name? Lori something, I think. She wrote for a local newspaper. And what happened was she was there, and when she heard about Don Miguel and the Four Agreements, and I was trying to bring him to Morristown, which we did. She got very excited. She approached him, wrote an article on it that became syndicated. And I'm certain it was part of why the Four Agreements kind of popped. And this is back before he was as big as he is. I love getting to know somebody before they get to be that big. Anyway, we wound up having Don Miguel at the community, and it was a very successful event. And then what happened was I did go to Mexico. I went to Mexico years later with him and his son, Don Jose, on a spiritual journey. And also that I started teaching it back in the day. I taught it with a very good friend and practitioner. Her name was Jillian Zimmerman. I'm sure it is still Jillian Zimmerman. But we created this workshop. It was probably 24 years ago. And for years, I taught it. I believe so much in the application of the Four Agreements and the way it complements science of mind and how we can put them together how we can put them together, that I have been teaching it. I consider it one of the cornerstones of the health of my community. I taught it to every practitioner. It's required of the practitioners within my community. I asked the board to read it. I asked the board to participate in the workshops, and we use it in our covenants. I will ask people to practice the 4 agreements if they're going to be part of leadership in my spiritual community, the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. Why? Why do I do all that? I do all that because it has a healthy, empowering message. A healthy and empowering message. So much so, this time around, I have actually I am developing, it's not complete yet, with a very good friend of mine, Marcy Schneider. She is I keep saying giving different years. It's either 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, I'm not sure, of a teacher. She's retired now, but we're working together, and this is what we're bringing to our community and anybody who wants to participate in it. And it is it is 4 agreements for non-adults, and we're really looking at the age groups of like between 7 and 11. So let me get rid of that. I'm learning the system a little bit, which is exciting. I'm sure Diego's going to be happy. But the 4 agreements are such a healthy practice that even letting children learn it nice and early will be very empowering. My 25-year-old son learned it quite early, was very moved by it, and has kept his practice alive, has kept it alive. It really has worked well. Anyway, so I'm just looking at something. Okay, so I'm here to bring to you the 4 agreements. The 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Those are the 4 agreements. Yes, there was a 5th agreement written with his son, but the fact is I'm so happy with the first 4. I've just never added it. I don't have any big reason why or anything big against it. I just never bothered to answer it. So I'm here to talk to you for the next 4 weeks about the application of these 4 agreements, and I will make a logical case as much as I possibly can on where and how it applies with the science of mind. So science of mind is a lovely religious philosophy. I love it. I love it. I am pure science of mind. That's who I am. But Ernest Holmes didn't give us a lot of how to apply. He talked about the philosophy and all that, which is great. That was his role as the visionary that he was. But I believe there's a real need to help and to support individuals for taking the teaching, the philosophy, and applying it, in day-to-day life. And so that's where we sometimes add in other authors and other teachings, not to replace science of mind, but to simply add to what it is that we're doing. So the first thing, and this is common knowledge, but I want to lay out the groundwork here. Don Miguel speaks about domestication. And what I'd like to do is I would like to have you know that even though we're talking about basic psychology, it's important to understand that the way you and I became who we are was through this natural process of domestication. It's so natural that you don't notice it happening. It's so natural that you didn't notice it when you were being domesticated. You probably didn't really notice it while you were domesticating your children. And if you think you didn't, au contraire, you did. It's the domestication is what happens when we are rearing our children. And for example, everybody knows that this is especially true. Well, the Irish say it's them, the Italians say that it's them. It's, when you have a look that can kill. You know that look when you look at your child and you go, the look that says, you better not go there, or you better not do that, or you better stop what you're doing. And so at that moment, that child, whoever that is at the time, decides on whether or not they want to cross the line. And if they really want your love, they will choose not to cross the line. They will. They will back up from it. That's basic domestication. If they're feeling safe with you, they might cross the line. But somewhere we teach the children our boundaries. We teach them the lines that we don't want them to cross. And we do that in very subtle and quiet ways. And so that's domestication. What's a little less obvious is this. If that domestication, when that's happening, if it's not caught, or when it's not caught, because most of the time it's not, it leaves little impressions, and it leaves them in our body temple. This is not to over dramatize, but the feeling of being not enough. Feeling not enough can be sparked and supported when we are domesticated. It's a little idea, a little pain that lands, and it lands in our body temple. And what happens over time, we have layers and layers and layers of these things happening. We don't really see them. We don't know what they are. But it's what causes us to go down a certain path. It's what causes us to be who we are, how we react. It creates what we call our world view. And so it's important to understand how this happens. As parents and grandparents, I'm begging you to be mindful. So and I'll go on to explain. So the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Children hear everything, even if you think they don't hear. They hear everything. They remember more than you want them to remember. And they make what you mean something. Sometimes they do it out loud so you can engage them, but often it goes inside and it settles within them. I am watching my two precious older grandchildren now. Now I also have a 2-month-old, but I'm mindful around her too. But I'm very mindful of my language. I am extremely mindful, because if I'm going to be impeccable with my word, I most specifically want to be impeccable around my grandchildren, who are going to take my word as an authority in their life, and it's going to mean something to them. But here's the thing. It's not just with the children. You and I mean something to each other. If you were watching me for the first time, what I say, the impression that I leave, has impact. So I want to, and I don't, it's my lifeblood to monitor what I say. I am impeccable with my word as often as I possibly can be, because I know my word lands. I know it is heard. Not only is it heard here live, but all the people that will view it afterwards. So that's why I leave each show every Thursday by saying, be well, be happy, be brilliant, because every word is a seed. And that's where be impeccable with your word starts really to complement the science of mind language, because we talk about our language and our ideas and spiritual mind treatment as seeds that move into the fertile soil of our subconscious. So let's make a little bit more sense of that. If I am an ornery, judgmental, cranky person, and I'm poorly managing what comes out of my mouth, even if I don't direct my language towards you specifically, all of that negativity, all of that toxic stuff lands. It might at the moment just land in me, which is still my body temple is being impacted by my irresponsibility of my language, but it will land everywhere else. Because in Science of Mind, we say that we co-create our world. I mean, we don't create it, we co-create it. Why? Because Spirit, God, life is in charge. And my alignment with that, the combination, because God does nothing for us that it doesn't do through us, right? God creates as us. God creates as me, as my consciousness. So the more I clean up my consciousness, and cleaning up means being responsible, being wise, um, making sure I plant seeds that are loving. So the more I do that, Spirit is there just pouring itself through. So when I am impeccable with my language, I can feel really good that what I'm co-creating is landing in a beautiful way. Okay. Before I go on, let's just take a moment to be so grateful for this radio show. And guys, there's I'm hoping Diego's going to put the banner across the bottom of the screen right now. There you go. I don't have the all the tools down yet as much, but um, this show, all the shows on here, they are worth you giving your money for. Get out your credit card. Get out your debit card. Write a check and send it to this organization because it is worth you sending money to. Okay, thank you. So back, I want to go back now. So to be impeccable with your word is to know that you are co-creating your word constantly. To plant seeds of possibility and love is, and Don Miguel uses a term which I don't care for this term. I haven't learned how to replace it yet. When we plant words and we speak language that is not that is can be somewhat destructive or limiting, he calls that black magic. So if I were to look at you, let's say we, and I think this is an example he uses in the book. Let's say you and I run into each other, and and you're looking a little, a little peaked, and I say to you, "Wow, you don't look good. Are you okay? Oh my gosh, really? You just don't look good." That in the mind or the reception of an unconscious individual will fall like a seed and possibly be acted upon. I say possibly because maybe they'll wake up to the fact that they don't have to do that. To a conscious person, they're going to think twice and they're going to say, "Oh, hell no, I'm not taking that." But the truth is that individuals, we want to be conscious with our language with everybody. If you know somebody hasn't been well and they haven't been well for a while, it is absolutely imperative to shut up about it. And when you see them, still plant a seed of possibility. Be impeccable with your word. And just be willing to say to somebody, "Wow, it's so good to see you. It's so good to see you awake and alive and feeling great." Is that really what's happening? I don't know. But I'm going to plant a seed of possibility. In my community, I say there are two ways to do this. We either collude with limitation or we collaborate with possibility. I want to collaborate with your possibility. So when I speak, and if you're around me enough, you'll notice I'm pretty mindful of what ideas I grab onto from other individuals. And so we want to be responsible. And the Science of Mind teaching is all about being responsible. It's about being responsible for how you and I create our worlds, for the language that we use, the way we show up. It is so, so important. Because here's the thing about responsibility. For some people, it's an ouch. The idea of taking responsibility can be an ouch. However, you can't correct, fix, change, or heal something unless you take responsibility for it. Get that? You must be willing to own something in order to impact the transformation. It's transmutation. So instead of trying to blame someone else, not take responsibility, push it off somewhere else, I will say, I created this. I co-created it. Now we create by many ways. Sometimes we create by allowing things. We don't always consciously create. But here's the 3 times you could be responsible. Be responsible for creating something. Excuse me. You can be responsible for how you react to what you created. And then know that you're responsible for what you create going forward. But you and I are not victims. And that when we are impeccable with our word, we will use language. One time I did this demonstration in my spiritual community. My ex-husband is an artist. So we put up 2 large foam boards. And what I did is I asked him to paint just the impression of something I was saying as I was saying it. And so the first time I did it, I used very negative, limiting language. And so he used very dark colors and broad strokes, and it was not beautiful. Then I gave language. I used language to describe something that was beautiful. And so then he painted what I was saying, and that painting came out as having order and color and beauty. And it was heart-opening because you and I create. I'm hesitating because this can be taken wrong. So every word we say adds to the overall experience of our lives. But thank God it does take a matter of accumulating. So I don't want you to be worried that with every word you have to worry, but it's almost like it's how you're feeling about it behind the scenes. So when we are practicing the 4 agreements and being impeccable with our word, we want to be extremely mindful. Isn't mindfulness what we do with meditation? Isn't the science of mind about being mindful? As a teacher of it, I say yes. So again, there's a beautiful, beautiful collaboration between the 4 agreements and the science of mind. So as parents, grandparents, leaders, managers, ministers, community leaders of any kind, I know that being a leader is a difficult thing because you've chosen to step out of the crowd and to take responsibility for an outcome. Now, so for me as the founding director of my community, I've chosen to take responsibility for the outcome of my community. And so I'm really mindful of how I engage my volunteers and my board. When I'm gone, when I'm out of the room, I want whatever I've done and whatever I've left behind to be powerful. So I'm asking you, if you are a leader, of any kind, to please be impeccable with your language, to please do so in such a way that your employees, know that you care about them. You might have to reprimand, you might have to discipline. It's not that will never happen, but to do so in a way that still has respect and kindness with it. Okay. Here goes. Here's an important part of the first agreement. When I used to teach it, I used to constantly say this should have been its own 5th agreement. Now they have a 5th agreement, so I can't say that anymore. Part of the first agreement is to practice non-gossip. Gossip is, hands down, the most widely accepted destructive practice that is. because on the first view, it looks like it just doesn't look destructive. When you initially participate, it is difficult to see how can a little bit of gossip hurt? How can a little bit of gossip hurt? Well, it can hurt. And I'm going to tell you how it hurts. And then I'm going to ask you over the next 4 weeks, and I'm hoping you'll come back as we continue through this 4 agreements journey. So we can practice it together and keep getting better at it. The first example, well, let's ask, why does one gossip? We gossip because we're frustrated. We gossip to be part of a group. We gossip because it makes us seem like we're somebody. We gossip because it gets someone's attention. You get agreement. You don't know how to handle something, so you should just gossip about it. It's a way of handling your upset. Okay. In truth, though, it doesn't do any of those things. It doesn't lift you. It doesn't empower you. It doesn't make your world better, and it certainly doesn't increase your relationships with whoever it is that you're gossiping about or gossiping to. And here's the thing. If you and I are chatting and you're gossiping to me, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to tell you anything. I am not going to tell you anything that matters. Why? Because I'm not going to trust you. I'm not going to trust that you won't turn around and then gossip about me to someone else. If you want to tear down your authority and your relationships, go ahead, gossip. Go ahead. Now, what's gossip? Now, I'm going to give you a definition. It is my definition, and it was the definition of my partner and I when we used to teach the 4 agreements together, because we had to come up with something. This is severe and extreme. I know it is. But this is what we work with. To us, to me, gossip is when you're talking about anything or anyone other than yourself or your feeling experience about something. So if I gossip about my husband and I talk about how he leaves his socks all over the floor all the time, which he does not, especially if he's listening, I'm gossiping about him. If I tell you my experience, how, wow, I really get frustrated and I don't know how to communicate this with him. Now I'm talking about my feeling experience. Hey, cuz, I'm glad I see my cousin is here watching. Good to have you on the show. So that's the difference. If you are communicating to tear down, to limit, to critique someone, that's true gossip. If you are trying to process your emotions, number one, do it with somebody who's really responsible and knows not to agree with you or knows not to agree with what you're saying about that person. So, for example, in my coaching program, when I coach somebody privately, and I see they're like fuming and they really need to purge what they're saying, I let them know up front that I'm safe and that I'm not going to believe what they're saying about their other person. Okay? So they can just let it out and then we let it go. Let it out, let it go. But not everybody can do that. Often people will listen to what you're saying and then they'll continue to critique that person even after you've stopped doing it. Be careful, husbands and wives and people in relationships, because if you, I'm just going to say it the way it is, bitch, moan, complain, and gossip about your loved one, and then you get over it and you forgive and you're okay. Unfortunately, you've dropped toxic ideas in people around you, and they continue to remember it even while you're over it. Okay? You got to get that. You want to monitor your language. Gossip is just downright destructive. It is destructive. Now, having said that, I know better. Do I still gossip? I do. I do. And I was spending time with a girlfriend the other day, and I raised my hand. I said, I'm about to gossip. And I kind of called myself out. And I was dealing with the frustration, and I kind of purged it. And thank God she's a great listener. That's my girlfriend, Joe Christiana, if she sees this. And then we moved on. I'm not saying you will never gossip, but I'm saying get conscious. Get conscious and be aware that everything you do and everything you say has impact. You and I, okay, so let's blend science and mind back together with this, okay? Within the science of mind we teach, there's one. So while that's a really rough, big concept. But as you and I speak, as you and I live, as you and I create, as you and I act, as you and I make decisions, we have impact. And we have impact on the whole. You know, it's like when you're making a sheet, when you're making a bed, and you wanna smooth out the sheets. You smooth it out over here, but sometimes a little puff of air passes underneath the sheet to across the bed, and then you go over there and you fuss with that side of the bed and that sheet. So we have impact on the whole. We do not always have impact immediately, and some people who don't want to gossip might pay attention and look at you and not say anything to you, because it's hard to call people out. It's hard. That's a hard thing to do. But they will remember. They will remember that you gossiped. You will lose the faith of that person. They will not trust you. And why should they? Right? So, 4 agreements. And being impeccable with your word. Agreement 1. This week, and I'm hoping that you say, yes, I'm going to give you an assignment as if I was coaching you privately. I am asking you to practice non-gossip, to monitor your language, and where possible, to take limiting language and turn it into language that is empowering. If we had more time together, if we had many weeks together, I would do it differently. Because sometimes the first and most important thing is monitoring it. And so, by the way, I do want to put up a banner here, a brand. I just want to let you know that this is what I want you to look for on Facebook as we go through, for the next 4 weeks. Okay. So for 4 weeks here on Thursdays before we get back to having some guests again. So practice non-gossip. Practice minding your language. Now, don't make yourself too crazy. While you're minding your language, it is not okay for you to judge yourself if you make mistakes. It's not okay. Don't use anything I ever say ever, please, as a way of putting yourself down. This should be uplifting. If it is not uplifting, then I'm doing something wrong. So when you catch yourself and you realize, oh, maybe you were pondering maybe you think you're a limited thinker. I don't really know. Maybe you label yourself as lazy, whatever it is. Catch the thought, stop the thought if possible, turn it around if possible, but don't judge yourself for doing it to begin with. Folks, the world needs us to love ourselves. The world needs each and every one of us to love ourselves more. Absolutely. And it's a practice. It's not, we weren't taught that. We weren't taught that. It's not that our parents tried not to teach us, but it just wasn't obvious. So, and I want to tell you about a couple of other things. This Saturday morning, I will be doing the Science of Mind lecture series right here on New Thought Media Network. And my title for this week is Growing Beyond by Design, which means about having a conscious way of creating our world as we grow and expand. And on Sunday evening, I am doing a one-time episode called Pray With Me. People love to pray all over this show. People are all over the New Thought Media Network. People are treating and praying all the time. And I'm like, I love to pray. So this coming Sunday evening, and I don't remember the time, I apologize. You can see it on my Facebook page, though. I'm posting it all over. You will see, you come and join me. Join me and request a prayer. Request something from me. Yes, Deborah, when you have self-love, it becomes easier to love one another. Yes. As a matter of fact, I'll take that a step further. Unless you love yourself, you can't love another. Because we can never love past our ability to love to love what we are. So right now I'm gonna do a spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, whatever we call it, to kind of pull this together. So I'm going to do it today with my eyes open, a little different than what I normally do. But remember, join me Saturday morning for the lecture series, or for Saturday afternoon with Pray With Me. So there's a power and a presence, a glory, an essence of good that makes itself available into, through, and as each one of us all the time. I speak this word right now for everyone listening. I speak it from the I am of me, which is the I am of you, which is the I am, the glorious one I am. And I know right here and right now that this invitation to grow, expand, and be more, that the invitation is here. It is spirit coming through the four agreements. It is spirit with the invitation to expand. It is spirit saying, yes, love yourself more. I believe in this essence. I believe in it completely. And I know that it dwells within. I know that it dwells within. So for each one of us, let us each be willing to accept and allow the love, the intelligence, and the inspiration of this one to show up as our lives. Let us each be willing to forgive ourselves for any transgressions or mistakes. And let us be willing to just be the fully expressed loving being that we are, that we were born to be, that we were ordained to be. I am so grateful for this teaching. I'm grateful for the four agreements, for the New Thought Radio Network. I am grateful to Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind. I'm grateful for you for listening. Let us rise up together. With bountiful gratitude, I release this word into law, and so it is. All right, folks. I have my coaching program is going strong. If you want private coaching, contact me at revjerseygirl@gmail.com. If you want to participate in our classes, just get on our email list at plannedhappinessinstitute.com and, just sign up to be with us. I promise you that wherever I am, healing happens, and I will be there to lift you, love you, support you always. Okay. So until next week, where we talk about don't take anything personally. Now that's a tough one. Until next week, be well, be happy, be brilliant. I love you. Thank you.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Faith, love, openness, willingness.